My name is Terri Messenger, and I am
So hello all and everyone. I am really excited, a little tired, but excited to be presenting this incredible sequence, because I haven't actually presented this one for quite a long time. So I know that this is going to be very well loved, accepted, and welcomed in by a lot of you, especially if you are thinking or you are in the midst of creating a beautiful offer. So your offer, especially in the online space, is so important that you really have your magnetic message and everything down to a T. So to make it really easy, I'm going to share my screen. So give me a moment. Okay, can you raise your hand if you can see the screen? Okay, excellent. Let's see if I can even go ahead and make it a little bit prettier. Just a moment. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I just want to try and make it so that you guys get to see everything up close and in the most easiest way. So let's see if I can position this. Click there, and then I'll click there, and then I'll click there. And all I have to do now is come back to my gorgeous group and then share. One, two, I find counting always works, and three. Okay, I'm not sure if that made any difference, but let's go ahead anyway. So create your genius offer and become the icon in your field. Why is this so important? Well, number one, who agrees that our industry is saturated? I mean, really full of coaches and so many people out there that are obviously in the industry. So you've got to start really nailing down on your expertise and what it is about you that is specifically so much better than the next person. And in saying this, I want you to know that you've got to believe in yourself with so much power. So can I get everyone to lock in? I believe in myself. Do a hit on the chest and anchor it in. I believe in myself.
I believe in myself.
I believe in my offer. I'll just get you to mute down so everyone's, you can say it to yourself. But thank you, Ian. That was, I think it's always nice to get the bit of the actual encouragement for the audience. So, yes. Yes, exactly. So, all right. So now just to kick off, who are you as a world-class coach? Now, are you a trainer, healer, success activator? However, you know, this is a really important piece. So for me, I like to use the word world-class because number one, I have earned that title, but you've got to really be able to earn your title too. So who are you as a coach, healer, business person, spiritual person, business tycoon, community legend? Whatever your title is, you've got to really own it. So the first thing I want to do is I want everyone to breathe in who you are. So I want you to say this affirmation after me. I am calling in my highest self through the divine. I feel my highest power. I see my highest power. I speak my highest power. So if everybody could close their eyes. And if you agree with this statement, I'm just going to ask your guides and my guides to collaborate. And right now, I ask that you call in your highest self through the divine. I want you to feel into your power. I want you to see into your power. And I want you to speak through your power. Now, if you agree with this, take in a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out. So when you think of your title, I want you to think of what you are going to get known for. So if you are not yet known in the online space and you haven't been around for, a long period of time, I would suggest that you really go for your #1 program and make your title so that people can really understand exactly what you are about. So awaken your inner genius. That is not my #1 program, but it is certainly the program that you happen to be in at the moment, which is a component. So I heard that somebody else had come up with awaken your inner shaman. It could be awaken your inner love of your life, or awaken your inner, rock solid certainty, or it could be something completely different. But it's got to be something that really emulates exactly what you are teaching and preaching. Become a world-class coach, or become the magnet, become the relationship magnet for your soul life partner. These kinds of titles, they have to really say everything before you start really putting them up, because if somebody doesn't know you, they're not going to want to go and study you great lengths to get to know what you really mean by your title. So please make your title of your program, your business, your offer as clear, laser lucid focus as you possibly can. Now, your tagline is required to be strong and give the compelling outcome. So, for example, if it is awaken your inner genius, for example, you are going wake up to who your soul purpose is. Wake up to your soul purpose and live your legacy life. Or if you are a shaman, it could be awaken your inner shaman. Recognize that your inner gifts can help the world, or be completely deconstruct all your old programs and become your higher self. But what is it that your outcome of what you are selling is going to bring? And that's what you've got to think about. So, for example, just looking at a couple of you here in the room, I would say one of you is a relationships coach. So therefore, obviously, that is about what's going to happen to that person and what is going to be the big difference that happens in their life because they're going to come into your world. What are you going to be able to bring to them and create that juicy, powerful tagline. You can open your eyes if you want, but I'm going to ask you to close them again. But you're welcome to have your eyes opened or closed. So this is what I want you to say. Say this after me. My service and offer is a powerful brand of my brilliance, and I activate the magic of my words. Now, if you really, really desire this, after you've spoken it, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath in through your nose. I'm going to ask you to take your thumb and your index finger, and I'm going to ask you to say these words after me. My service and offer is a powerful brand of my brilliance, and I activate the magic of my words. And then squeeze down the index finger and the thumb, breathing in and breathing out. Very good. Okay, coming back. Now, who are you in your iconic service? Now, this is a different, little bit of a different topic here, because when I say, who are you in your iconic service? What you will find is that even though we teach on authenticity, I don't want anybody to get confused here. We very, very much teach on being true to yourself and being very, very much who you are, because people want to see you. However, when you think of your brand, right? Now, your brand is how you represent yourself. Now, just to give you a bit of an idea about myself, I tend to go between earthy, primitive, warrior kind of woman to the more glamorous and kind of majestic. So my brand, the way that I represent myself, if I'm going to look at all of the elements that I do, it symbolizes me being in my absolute greatest space when I'm either glammed up or when I'm with Mother Earth. I could be walking through the park, I could be in the jungle in Bali, but you will find that these are elements of your brand. So the way that you create your brand, you want to keep very much in sync to that. So the way even that you present yourself, where you, with your background, as we can see here, Bridget's in that planetarian kind of a background. So that would say that Bridget's into, like, she understands astrology a little, or maybe she's a bit at one with the stars and the moon. Now, if you don't feel that that's true of yourself, what I would do is I would start thinking in terms of, who am I? And, you know, where am I in my absolute greatest sweet spot? And then begin to kind of create the scenery that you're in. So this is a paradigm of getting into state, much like an actor. Now, this is actually, while I want to really reinstate that this is about you staying authentic and being true to yourself, when I talk about getting into state, much like an actor, I'm talking about you in your role model as an actor. So let's just say you had to play a part, and for $1 million, you had to brand yourself, and it had to be very typical of who you are. What clothing would you wear? how would you be? What kind of a person are you in your higher self? Now, of course, we want to talk your higher self, and remember, anything that the mind can conceive, you can achieve. So if you're dreaming of being, someone who is glamorous, or maybe it's more the outback cowboy, or if you're a girl, it could be more the warrior queen. But what you have to do is you really need to bring the way that you dress, the way that you present, and all of that, and be really congruent. So when we talk about this being like stepping into your role as an actor, this is what takes away a lot of nerves as well. So, sometimes we can think about going live, for example, and in terms of doing that, we can kind of conjure up a lot of nervous energy. And I feel that that is a very normal thing that happens to the absolute best of us. But you've also got this little powerful element to consider. Now, what I want you to do for this little one is I want you to close your eyes down shut. And I want you to imagine and see yourself on the big screen, and imagine that you're seeing yourself in the ideal presentation of who you are. It doesn't have to be formal, glammed up. It's just the ideal way that you look, present yourself, the way what you're wearing, how you're coming across. I want you now to just gauge your true values of what you are putting out there. Who are you in your higher self? Now, as you see who you are in your higher self, I want you to turn it up. I want you to create it so it is so very powerful. Make it bright. Now, how do you speak? What does your voice sound like? Is it strong? Is it authoritarian? Is it light? Is it deep? I want you to hear your voice. Does it emulate strength? Who do you stand for? What do you stand for? As you bring this up, you may get, like, I remember having images of like Wonder Woman. I've always conjured up that kind of a person. And even though I don't have to dress up as Wonder Woman, I can always remember that this is the archetype. This is my higher self of whom I'm resonating with. Now, I want you to imagine that as you see yourself and you are looking exactly the way you look when you are powerfully, compellingly, and vibrantly speaking to people. What are you wearing? How does your voice sound? I want you to see all these differences and really turn them up. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to put a ring of a color around you, this super you. And I want you to imagine it's giving out this frequency sound. It's like only you can hear the sound. I want you to see that this ring of beautiful color, like a light that is lighting you up, like you are a star, has a color and is now becoming a symbol. And what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to float into it. And as you float into it, I want you to press your index finger and your thumb together as you go into it. That's right. And I want you to feel into this state, because this is the state that you can be in every time you show up. This is your brand. Now float out. And you can open your eyes again if you wish to do so. Now, this is what I want you to say after me, which is on the screen. If you can state it: my brand becomes my highest self, and I harness the potent charisma and magnetic energy with ease and grace. Now, I missed out a G in that word, but that's okay. We can always correct it. So now what I want you to do, as you really hear yourself say these words again: my brand becomes my highest self, and I harness the potent charisma and magnetic energy with ease and grace. And now I want you to float back into that color, and I want you to anchor yourself into it. And as you anchor yourself right into that, just feel it through every muscle and cell of your body. And know that your brand is like that. It's a separate entity from you, but it is like your highest self. It's like you wanting the best for your own child, or that it's a separate part, but it is the highest version of you. And that's why it is up to you to represent this every time you show up. What is your promise? Now, your promise is, what do you promise that your service is going to give? Now, this is where clarity is really going to come in very, very handy. So firstly, we want you to think of the outcome of your program and think of what your service, I mean, it could be a business service. It's not just a program, but I want you to think about your promise. Okay, what is it that you promise? I know when I am bringing people into my programs, I can promise that their energy levels is going to 10x. It's going to escalate. They're going to be able to release a lot of their negative beliefs, and they're going to be able to step into their power. You've got to know with absolute certainty what you are promising with what you are offering. Now, here is a very important piece. What is your story that will become your glory? This is where a lot of people that are really good at what they do, they can stumble on this, because they've got this thinking that because they're either a business leader, they're an entrepreneur, they're leading the way, they're a coach, they're supposed to have all their stuff together. So sometimes they don't want to tell people about their own true story. And what they don't realize is that they are leaving so much on the table. I'm telling you, this can be, in some people's case, this has been the only missing link, that they've never been transparent enough because they're in fear of people judging them. And yet it is going to be a testimonial to you to be able to state where you've come from. Never forget where you've come from. So what has been your biggest pain? Because your story is your glory. And not only that, but it is your big epiphany that has happened for you that you can then impart to others. Okay, so if you just speak these words with me. I speak my words of great revelation and live, breathe, and compel others whom are my aligned people to hear it. Now, even though I wrote this like 2 minutes before I came on board, so hence a few little errors, but because being neuro-linguistic, I'm very, very good on words. However, these words, so when you're saying, I speak my words of great revelation, and then you say, and live it, breathe it, and compel others, you might be going, oh, isn't that manipulative, or isn't that a little forceful? But I want to actually persuade you to be persuaded to hear otherwise. Notice how I've put and compel others whom are, that's the subject too, whom are aligned people to hear it. See, what you've got to remember, so many people are so scared of feeling like they're manipulative or salesy or pushy. But what you've got to remember is that your people truly want to change. And if you can't start selling this idea to the right people, then how are you going to change them? And that is why it is so important. So now moving on. Did we do that with the anchor? Okay, let's do that. I speak my words of great revelation and live, breathe, and compel others whom are my aligned people to hear it. Anchor it in. So now, what is the most important, valuable, and greatest thing that you absolutely, hand on heart, swear by about what you sell? In other words, the most valuable and important thing I know that I have is the ability to help people change at their mindset level and literally create a whole new different paradigm. So if the person is even an overthinker, or they're a procrastinator, or whether they are over drinking or overeating or whatever it is, you know, one of the things, this is how I became a success activator, is that I realized I was very good, hand on heart, in actually releasing the trauma and the habits and the old codes that people lived, so they could make a change. And as a result, they activated and became successful. So the success of it actually was the second wave. The first part of it was helping them to release. So what is it that you do? Now, this is a really important element, because you have to really be able to have that strong notion that you completely 100% believe in what you are doing. So whilst people can come up with all sorts of different thoughts of why they're not succeeding or why they're not showing up, when you can hit the nail directly on the head of what is going on in your business, that is when things can change. So you could be going, oh, well, I'm not getting traction, or I'm not showing up because I've got this, this, and this wrong. But how do you know that there isn't an element of what you are actually putting forward that you are not compelled enough? Like, you've really got to feel so very compelled. It's a promise. And of course, this piece, what makes it so different to everything else you've tried? So I don't know about you guys, but I know before I became a practitioner trainer, I had tried so many other things. Now, counseling, psychology, People spend lots and lots of money trying new ways and different practices to find out that the only thing that actually really did work was the biohacking modalities of the subconscious mind. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be yours, but that is just an example that I'm giving. So it's really important to know, because I wouldn't mind absolutely putting money on it, that whatever you have overcome in your life, that you are creating as your offer. And if your offer and your business is not what you've overcome, you've got to go back to the drawing board. So this is what this is all about, so you can really go deep into it and understand it. But when you know what it is, and when you have that breakthrough, there is without a doubt, a seed of doubt, that you would have tried something out first of all. So the first thing, like one of the things that I say when I'm on a call with someone, this is a really important piece. If somebody is interested in you and you're on a call with them, or you're speaking to them face to face, ask them the question, what else have you tried? What else have you tried? So usually they'll tell you a whole string of things, right? So whether it is in the online space, and they may have tried a whole load of programs and business programs, and then in that case, I might turn it over to the missing piece being the energetics. Strategy is very important, and that's where I'm teaching strategy right now. But energetics is a massive important one. Others might say something different. If you're a relationship coach, they may have gone to counselors, they may have gone to different elements. But it's what turned you around and what you've got that is your point of difference. And that's when you can say, you know what, me too. I had been down that road. I had gone through so many things. But it is really what it is, whether it is a product or a service. It's something that you've got in your hands. Like, for example, Dr. Ian, right? He has a product, and the product that he's got, because he's a chiropractor, he will tell his patients about his own story, which is a very true story, how it actually gave him back his years of chiropractic, because this is a moringa. This product happens to be a moringa, but I don't have to go into detail about it because I'm not selling it. But because he can tell that story, and he can talk about it to his patients, about how it gave him back years back into his job, into his field, how he'd tried everything else prior. These are the elements you've got to have as well under your belt. What and who are your social proof about your offer? Do you have social proof? Now, social proof is testimonials. And testimonials, even if you have a conversation or a luncheon with someone, and that person just feels like, man, I just got so much out of that conversation, just sitting with her or him and having that conversation has helped me. You know what? 9 times out of 10, you didn't charge for that. So what you do is you turn around, especially if you are newer in the industry, and you say to them, look, would you do me a favor? Would you simply write the truth? Would you give me a testimonial? Because that social proof of who you are as a person is going to go for miles. If you are starting up a program, for example, or even if it was a product service business, you can put out a special trial offer, right? It can be like what you're running as your pilot. You can say, this has been tried and tested. This is something that I know that works. But you know what? I am going to give you the opportunity of coming on board, either for a very small price or whatever you're prepared to do. And I'm going to showcase this to you. There's no greater way to get people working with you as well once they know that you're the real deal. So obviously you give them a taste, they come on board with you, and you simply say, the only thing I'm going to ask from you is a testimonial, because results are everything. I used to have a motto, remember, results count. Okay, people need to believe in 3 things when they're buying. They need to believe in you, they need to believe in your offer, and they need to believe in themselves. But as you know, the chances of this are pretty slim. So this is what I want you to think about, because you could take one of these slides and apply it to a video tomorrow or a story tomorrow, and just apply one of them and really give it your absolute greatest. And then you could show up the next day and apply the next slide, and then the next day and apply the next. You don't have to do a whole webinar. But imagine if you were able to focus in on this. This is the 3 elements that will help people to buy. They need to believe in you, they need to believe in your offer, and they need to believe in themselves. So what can you do to make this work? Well, firstly, for them to believe in you, it's about you showing up and showcasing what you have, who you are, what you represent. If you've got testimonials around that, that is great. But you can simply just show up, introduce yourself, and even talk about something that you did. I had a conversation with someone last week. I had one of my beautiful clients with me, true story, and she really and truly, now I'm just going to give you an example so that you can hear it in real life. She loves the work that I do. She knows it's changed her life. She has experienced it year in and year out. She's totally sold on it. And so what she's done is she's gone through transformation with me. She has invested in certification with me. And now what she does is she rings me up once every month. We get together and I literally teach her one of the profound modalities, because she knows once that modality is, she's got it in her hand, she concentrates on it, I write her the script, she goes away with it, she's got this juicy, powerful piece of information. But guess what else? She's also got a transformation happening right there. So that's the sort of story. You need to tell a real story, a true story, but that's a little example. The offer, I just did that in there, right? So I talked about my client with myself and the offer. And now what about them? This is the big $64 million question. You have got to have skill sets to help them know that there is hope for them. You have got to have the skill set to change their belief in themselves around the subject that you're selling. Okay, so let's just say somebody came on in and they didn't feel like they stood out in the online space and they didn't feel like they had a very good offer. I would actually then say to them, I had exactly the same thing. I had nothing before I came along. You have absolutely every chance. Anything that you want, you can become. But you need to literally have an art on being able to help them believe in themselves about what you've got and what that is going to do for their life. Okay, let's take a deep breath and breathe out. Now, this one here, give your what you are selling, but not the how. So what you are selling is letting people know exactly everything that I've just said leading up to now. That is the what. The how is going into all the intricate pieces of how that's going to happen. And guess what? The moment you do that, they're going to run away scared. And I'm going to tell you why they're going to run away scared. Because it's going to sound complicated. If I told you what I'm going to run an event in your suburb of your city, and I'm coming and I'm going to collaborate with you, and we are going to run the absolute most epic service to the community, and we are going to put it out there to everyone in your neighborhood and everyone in your city to come and join us for the greatest transformation of their lives. And they are going to actually have the gift of learning an acquisition modality that is going to reshape their relationships. I'm just going to use relationships here. So they are going to become so empowered about what it's going to take to actually connect with people, to have the highest respect, to have the most incredible life where they become influential and people just absolutely 100% connect with you. I've told you what, and I've told you where, although I haven't said where or when, but I haven't said we're going to use this modality. We're going to do this. We're going to make sure this happens and this happens, because the moment that you go into the how, they'll get overwhelmed. So keep it to what and leave out the how. Now, this part, guys. What are your 5 pillars? What are your 5 pillars? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video just for a moment, and we're going to come back with the 5 pillars in just a moment. Okay, now we've got that out the way. We will go back to the presentation. So guys, what we wanted to do is have a chat to the people in the house, and we looked at their title and their tagline to make sure that it was really, really on point. And then we got to this piece. Now, this piece about teaching on your 5 pillars is probably the one that most people may kind of like just leave by the wayside and not think of it as important. But I want you to think of this as an anchor. Now, this is your anchor in the way that it's going to really help you speak about the language of what you do, no matter where you are, and it doesn't matter what situation you're in. So if somebody called me to the stage and they never ever warned me about it, they just said, we're going to bring up Terri Messenger to the stage. Terri, tell us what you do. Okay, so I would tell them that I teach world-class coaching training through NLP and hypnosis, and I am a success activator. I create this on the 5 master keys. I call it master keys. We're calling it pillars here. That is that when you understand the work that I'm doing, this is recoding and totally coming in and biohacking your mind. So number 1, you can have the greatest health and billion-dollar energy. Number 2, recoding, because everything is about recoding and rewiring in the relationships of, you know, what you learned to do when you were growing up. So we recode it, we rewire it. Also your spiritual prosperity, because that is about who you are to your core, how you value yourself, and the money that you're bringing in. Your zone of genius, because what I discovered is when everyone that came through my programs was able to literally dissolve, clear, and release their trauma and step into their billion-dollar energy and literally rewire themselves, guess what happened? Their zone of genius. Their zone of genius and legacy life. Now, I have a very distinctive meaning behind all these 5 keys, and that's what I want every one of you to do. Have a very much a sound belief system of why and what they are, so you can clearly remember them. Okay, let's do an affirmation. So let's say this together. The 5 pillars of my service are born, and I am activating them through word, deed, and service. Let's anchor that. Let's take a deep breath in. And let's breathe out. Now, let me just teach on that. And that is this is what you're birthing. We are birthing this from you now. This is what is part, even if you're a man, don't think of it as birthing like from a woman coming from the body, but you are also co-creators and procreators. And this is the very essence of what you're creating. So that is why you need to see your service as a separate entity from yourself. You need to really honor it and know it's your highest being. And when you can do that and activate it and know that it's born, you need to nurture it, water it, and look after it every day. Now, with each pillar, this is just going back on around the pillars because this is important. I want you to be able to teach one thing. So someone here mentioned the word that one of their pillars was preparation. And I said preparation for what? Okay. So it's preparing to create, obviously, their dream relationship with their dream partner along those lines. So that's what you do need to be able to say. That's you've got to be able to teach on that. And if you can, then that is going to be huge progression. Break down the steps of your designed program to be broken down and done in your process in an easy, effortless structure. Now, let me talk about the breakdown, the steps of your designed program. So as you break everything down into the steps and the process, this is going to show them what an easy, effortless structure it is. So for example, you might say to them, the first thing that we are going to do, firstly, you want to give them the outcome. So that is, the outcome is you are going to become this absolute bravado warrior woman with a lion heart. You are going to claim your power. You are going to claim your uniqueness. And this part of your uniqueness and your power is going to be the very essence of what we're going to do. So when you come into my program, number one, I'm going to take you through the first pillar. The first pillar is self-love and self-acceptance. I'm just making this up. So this piece is so vital for you to understand that your own love and acceptance of yourself first comes before anything else, because this is going to change everything. So we are going to bring you into your own self-love and self-acceptance. We are going to create a beautiful, beautiful space where you can become totally the lioness in your life, and you can be able to articulate exactly who you are to the world. We are going to join you in a beautiful community with like-minded people that are in exactly the same position as you are. And you're going to be able to bond with them. You're going to be able to network with them, and you're going to be able to grow with them. We're going to offer you this over 6 months. And during this time, you are going to get 3 up-close, personalized one-on-one sessions with me. Plus, we will give you a total support in Voxer Monday to Friday. Now, on top of all of this, that is really breaking down the process. So that just kind of gives you that a little bit of just off the top of my head, and it gives you a little bit of an idea about how to break down the process. So as we move to the end, why some well-documented things do not work and what you have that does work. Now, guys, I'm sorry that this is really roughly written, but what this means is there are things out there in the world. We may know it, that there are counselors. You can go to a counselor, you can go to a psychologist, and maybe you weren't able to really progress. But here's the thing. When you come into my space, I understand what it takes to be going through what you're going through. And the reason that I know that that didn't work for me is because I needed something and someone who understood exactly what my root problem was. And my root problem was really around this. So you see what I'm saying? I'm kind of like really nailing in, dialing down on what that does. And what I am going to do for you is I'm going to give you the step-by-step tools to take you through that. And of course, this is where that niche-y piece comes into it, because you're talking directly, because I've taught you in this sequence tonight of how to speak directly to that person, it becomes like, oh my gosh, this person's reading my mind. How do they know that I'm going through this? Okay, so that's why you've got to really be able to hit the nail on the head. For the other person here in the room, you know that a lot of these online dating sites, that's where people meet the wrong people. That's where people find themselves in a situation where they're wasting so much time. They're getting disappointed by meeting the wrong person. This is where your specific field can come into play, where you've got this. You've been through this. You know it very well, and that's why you've overcome it. So that is a classic example of why some of these well-documented things don't work as well as what you've got to offer, because you understand those specific processes. Now, obviously, if somebody else that's not in your niche can't relate to that, that's perfectly okay. But you know that there are going to be people that do. Overcome beliefs in your industry and explain why your service works. Why does your service work? I would love to know why your service works. Probably the best way that I would have, I might ask Ian for this one. Ian, would you like to speak on why your service works? I'm just going to ask you to unmute. Okay.
My service in the work I do?
Yes. Why does your service work?
It's all about love. You cannot give away what you don't have. And so unless you love yourself, you cannot give away. So I love myself. I'm unconditional love. I love everyone. I might not like a lot of people, but I love them as people because we are frequencies, energies, and the whole world runs on it. So the whole secret in what I do is love it. I'm there to I've been anointed to be a chiropractor at a level of the world has never seen, or for the glory of God. And I say that God is using me, my hands, to do his work. And so when I'm working with people, that is what I'm working with. I'm not often here thinking about this or that or everything else. I'm locked onto what I'm doing to do what I do the best I possibly can for that person.
That's excellent. Is that why your service works?
Yes, it's. I've had people coming through me years and everything else, and they say I'm a genius and all these other things, and give me compliments, and I just say I'm doing the Lord's work through my hands, and that's it. And if someone comes to me, I don't treat the problem the person's got. I treat the person who's got the problem so they heal themselves.
Ah, that's it. Boom. What you just said. What you just said, that's great. And I know you're very, very convicted in what you do. So that's why you are a good example for that. So thank you so much for sharing, Ian.
Yep, no worries.
Now let's get through to the last piece. Let's speak this. Can we speak this? I speak the power of my service in the most ethical way and with absolute conviction within my soul. And just place your hands together, your finger and your thumb, and breathe in. And breathe out. And so it is, and so it is. What can you demonstrate either on a video or in writing or on a reel to showcase your great talent? Guys, what I'm doing with you is a little bit of it, only it's very light. I could go a bit deeper, but even if I was going to showcase, just to give you an example, it might be like a bit of a meditation with a golden light coming through the crown of your head and just taking people through that beautiful meditation. So what you want to be able to do is showcase, you know, what your art is, because if you can showcase that, that's where, you know, seeing is believing. Where did you learn and earn your service? So this is a really important piece. So make sure where you learnt from, all the people and things that have been very much a big piece to where you are today. It's a good idea to talk about it because people want to know your history. That's adding to your credibility. If you've done different modalities, talk about the different modalities. If you've done different schools of training, talk about the different schools of training. And this is where you can then interweave it. Ensure your product, service is 100% successful. If this is a missing piece, invest in it until it is rock solid, okay? So one of the things that you guys are doing here, and it just so happens that I'm teaching strategy, but I'm also energetic. So for example, if you wanted to learn an energetics on a piece of what I teach, you know, in NLP or hypnosis, you can really, really nail it in. You might go out somewhere else and you might get somebody else to teach you on something that's really going to also sharpen that piece. So if you're not 100% rock solid about it, make sure you do something about that now. And I think that just about brings us to the last piece, and that is, once you have, if you can go back and go through these elements, if you were doing a webinar, and I won't teach on a webinar in this, but just briefly, if you were doing a webinar, everything that I have just taught you is what you would do, okay? So every piece is what you would cover in the webinar. But at this point, when you are about to go forward, you would ask permission. Do I have permission now to move forward? And especially if you're on a call one-on-one, and you're, you know, talking to someone, do I have permission to talk to you about how I can move you forward and what I can do for you? It just adds that little bit of control for them to be able to own it and to be able to speak to you quite honestly about what they want to do. And that is creating your genius offer. Now we have Voxer. What I'm going to suggest to you, if there is anything from what we have been training and teaching on here in this particular sequence, which I know we did go over time, please ask. Let's go deeper in Voxer, because that is why we have it. And maybe that might stir up a bit of questions as well in any case. But just for people that are in the US, it's bedtime for me now. So if you do have questions immediately, I will get to you as soon as possible. But sending you all so much love and sending you the power of your offer. Thank you for joining us on another empowering episode of our show, where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.